16 minutes to 8 a.m. We do continue with Monday, the 11th of April 2022, and we get to have our Tech Note this Monday morning. Hashtag morning at NTV on Twitter as well as Facebook. You can also stream with us on Facebook and YouTube. Just type in NTV Uganda. My name is Priscilla Regina Naroga, and welcome once again in case you have just joined in or tuned into NTV. Now, as of 2019, we did have statistics stating that we do have 15,000 street children. Now, this could be either orphaned or they've actually become homeless because of one circumstance or another. And the age is even staggering, between 7 years and 17 years of age, especially here in Kampala. We've had stories of what we call the KCCA grappling with the plight of street children year in, year out. And to that, they don't seem to have found a permanent solution in that regard. Around COVID-19, they had to partner with different homes to take in these street children that they may be taken care of in the post-COVID-19. But now they're back on the streets. And what is the permanent solution? We don't know, but taking note of it, we're here to understand the plight of street children. And the first International Day of Street Children was launched at a reception in the National Theatre in London, and that was in April 2011. The day is aimed to give 1 million of street-connected children all around the world a voice. And here to speak to us about the plight of the street children is Damon Wamara, who is the Executive Director for Uganda Child Rights Organization. Good morning to you, Damon.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome back from your Palm Sunday.
Thank you.
How is it?
It was a beautiful Sunday, good family day.
That I do agree on the part of Family Day. Also joining us for understanding the plight of street children is Faith Kembabazi, who's Executive Director, Children at Risk Network. Good morning to you, Faith.
Good morning.
And how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you. We'll start by asking, what caused you to actually start Children at Risk Network?
We have a lot of issues with children. In Uganda, 96% of our children are vulnerable. They are under the OVC category. And of course...
What's the OVC category for?
That's vulnerable children.
Okay.
Orphans and vulnerable children.
All right.
And half of our country is children, is under 18. That's about 56%. And therefore, there has to be somebody who fights for the rights of children. And both our organizations do that. He does it at the international level, we do it at the national level.
Okay, all right. Now, speaking of which, Damon, we want to get into it and find out what is Raja, or Child Justice for that matter. What's this project about and how is it intended to actually help children on the streets?
The Raja project is a partnership with, we have as Uganda Child Rights Network, with the Freedom House, that we are working together in partnership with Freedom House, in partnership with USAID, in partnership with Law Development Center, Free Child Uganda, and also with the Child Aid and FIDA Uganda. And the Raja is about, Raja is rights and justice. And our subgroup is specifically handling issues around child rights justice, access to justice for children. And when we talk about the children living and working on the streets, by the way, we don't call them street children because the streets have never given birth to children. So we call them children living and working on the streets. Like Faith has already mentioned, these children are vulnerable. These children are exposed to very many issues around access to justice, around the sexual violence that happens to them, the drugs, the access to health, and the different items where we feel that the children have not yet fully accessed their rights to justice. And we are hoping that this project that targets children from all over Uganda, but specifically Wakiso, Arua, Lira, Mbale, Mukono, and also Chotera, and the schools that we have talked about, the places I've talked about, you'll find that many of the children who are on the streets are coming from this area. For your information, in Buganda area, according to the statistics we have as per 2017, the largest number of children on the streets come from the Buganda Central region.
And what is the root cause of that?
There are various reasons as to why children come to the streets, and these are reasons we all know. One, children want to go to school, but they've been denied that right to go to school. So when they come to the streets, their intention is that we'll come to the streets, we'll beg for money, we'll accumulate enough school fees, and we'll go back and pay for our school fees. But when they reach here, the situation changes and turns on them. The other reason that they're pushed from home is because of the domestic violence at home. And when the domestic violence is prevalent and it is an uncomfortable position, then they're able to run to, then they find the streets as an option. According to a Ministry of Gender in 2017, the violence against children survey that they did, it was found that the homes were the most unsafe place for a child to be.
And they still are.
And COVID-19 proved it, not in a good way. As one of the commissioners in gender says, the naked truth came out, that the families were the places where children, instead of them being safe at home, that's why we found more cases of violence. The Child Helpline recorded from 100 calls per week, they recorded now to 1,000 calls per week over the COVID period. And then we're now seeing the numbers of children increase. When children should be in school, they instead more children are on the streets.
Okay, all right. But there's also statistics that indicate that otherwise in regards to why children actually come to the streets. One, of course, is to step away from the restrictions that are being placed at home, which restrictions are meant for their better good and development. And then you're also looking at some running away from school. They probably are not taking in education as expected. They're not performing to the best of their abilities. And they would rather alternate to the streets to be able to hustle, quote unquote.
The statistics we have on ground from our member organizations, both CRANE and UCRNN, our member organizations, tells us otherwise. The information we get from our children is not exactly that. The reason why they have been pushed, like I've said, is that the homes are not a safe place. They're being overworked, they're being pushed, they're being put into child marriage, they're being pushed into child marriage, they're being pushed to go and you remember that in Africa, one of the reasons why parents want to have many children is that is a source of income. They have more children, they have more people working.
Pension at the
exactly.
End of the day.
So we need to see that children are as they're exploited and they then feel uncomfortable. I mean, no child would want to opt for a street compared to a home. Secondly, we also have the situation where, of course, we agree that the COVID situation forced children to begin to work and to look for themselves and look for food and all that.
Yes.
We are also having the issues around the fact that some children are finding it hard to go back to school, and that one's a whole different story, but it doesn't mean that the children are necessarily opting to go to the streets. And for us as child rights actors, we'll tell you that there's nothing like saying the child decided to go. No, you are a parent. You are a parent. You are supposed to take charge of your house. You're supposed to ensure that your child is in school, and that is our goal, and your child is safe in a home.
All right, Damon Wamara, ED, Uganda Child Rights Organization, and he talks about the rights and justice for children, especially the ones that are living on the street. Not that they're born on the street, but because of circumstances, they have been led to the streets to find a source of livelihood in one way or another. Turning to you, Faith, how is Children at Risk Action Network actually helping children living on the streets? And also, I would like you to address the 12th of April and what it is exactly about, what's its objectives in celebration of it.
Children Action Network is a group of organizations that work with children in different areas. We have the focus of children in families, the focus of children in safe spaces, and the focus of children in education. And so this particular part is children in safe spaces, where we want to make sure that even the children on the street or children who are connected to the street, we have different themes when we talk about children on the street. They're either connected or they're in street situations. They're not, as Damon said, street children. The theme for this year's day of commemoration, a day for the children in street situations, is create specialized solutions in a global network with UN observer status. Because we have that, as you said, the first day was commemorated in London. So we have the consortium in London that then helps to come up with those themes in order to help children on the street or children in street situations be recognized or be thought about. we started celebrating this in 2012, and so it's more commemoration than celebration. We commemorated this in 2012, and we're asking our government to recognize this day as an international day for children in street situations, and asking the government for equality for children on the street, that even the child on the street wants education, the child on the street needs to be safe, the child on the street needs good health.
If I may come in, how does, requesting the government to actually identify it as an international day for this country aid in what you're trying to push, that is specialized solutions?
If they think about it, then they will plan for it. Then they will think, if we're planning for the day of the children in street situations, that means even our government will think through the budgets for it. Because if they have it as a day they are commemorating, that means it's in their minds. Like the Day of the African Child is commemorated. So how about the Day of the Children in Street Situations? So this time we're asking that if government cannot find one particular solution for children on the street, how about if they create different solutions, because we have different dynamics. We have seen children from Karamoja on the street. They need a different situation, solution creation. Children in Uganda, as Damon has said, are here. Why? So we have to think through different regions and find different creative solutions to keep children at home. We have children who under domestic violence have run away from home. What do we do in such a situation? There's poverty pushing them on the street. What do we do in such situations? But there is also children being trafficked onto the street by different adults.
Communities.
Yes. So what do we do in that situation? The government at the moment doesn't seem to be doing a lot.
So while we wait for the government to pull up its socks in this area, something that clearly has not happened in the 10 years of having the commemoration for this International Day for Street Children, then as different stakeholders, as NGOs, as people who have taken a choice to actually aid in creating these solutions, what are those specific solutions that you have created, and what have been the results of implementation?
There are many organizations like Dwelling Places or Hope for Justice. There are many in Ginger that take children off the street, actually rehabilitate them to start thinking about home is best, and return them home, and then they are able to be supported in school, or they are able to be given, the parents are able to be given some income generating activities in order to keep the children at home. So there are many organizations that have come together to say, we can do this if the government can't. And of course, with help from donors from the outside, they're helping the children get off the street. But we have to have the help of the government. And together, there has to be a budget. Because when you're talking about... Do share
with us statistics of rehabilitation so far.
At the moment, I don't have them off my head, but we do know that a lot of organizations have taken children back home. I don't know if Damon will have any, but I think on I can't quote a lot of statistics off my head, but I know that at least a third of the children on the street have been taken back home, and they have stayed at home. We do know that some do return, but a lot stay at home and resettle. Okay.
All right. And what would be the period of rehabilitation?
The government has said they should be about 3 to 6 months, but some of the children need more than that. So you find that you have to get, depends on how long they stayed on the street. Because for us, certain children, if you find them lost, they could take 2 days to take back home. Others, they have to have counseling, they need to go through a lot of talking to trauma. There's a lot of counseling that has to go on. And for some, it takes more than 6 months.
Okay, and one would be interested in the rehabilitation tools that are applied for you to actually achieve this.
Say that again?
What are some of the rehabilitation tools that have been applied to be able to achieve returning children back to their homes, resettling them back to their communities, and things like that?
Well, majorly is the counseling, as I've said, and it has to be for both the child and back home. Because as you get information from the child, you try to start tracing where their home is, and then you have to also counsel the family to receive this child. So that counseling is important. But there's also the trauma counseling of whatever issues have found on the street, being bitten, being sexually abused, and all these issues that they find on the street. They have to have that. But also you interest them in education. So they get simple education in these organizations so that they can be interested in education again. And for those who are older, they are then given skills, life skills like mechanics or tailoring, so that they can then go and do a skill that will then give them money, because when they're 17, 18, they don't want to go back to school.
Okay, all right. Back to you, Damon. We also get to look at the fact that perhaps there is a continuous gap in the judicial application of rights for children. Talk to us about that gap and how it can actually be breached.
Yeah, just before I answer that question, allow me just add one more point there. One of the key things that we've been pushing for as child rights organizations is going back to the basics. And the basics are, you know, the solution to this issue of children on the streets, it's very simple.
Charity beginning at home.
Exactly. Yeah. At home, parenting. And as organizations, we pushed for the amendment of the Children's Act in 2016. And in that act, if you look at the act, we had a lot of influence to see that the issue of parenting is prioritized in the act, that the children, first of all, the government needs to plan for it, but also the parents need to know their responsibility as a family. Now, coming back to what you have raised about the judges, it goes back to still the same thing. The Children's Act that we have, as amended in 2016, actually highlights the key issues that we thought that were the gaps that were in the judiciary. And now we have moved to the next steps of seeing how do we have this Children's Act move from just being another law that is very good in Uganda, but not being implemented. And so as a child rights network with our member organizations, we are working at seeing how we can, number one, break down the law. You know, have engaged with the judiciary to understand what the law is, to help them understand that, look, this category of children should be prioritized in terms of funding, because, you know, they'll tell you court cases are long, they're expensive, they're what, but these are children who need justice. And, you know, child justice is needed immediately. You cannot, one of the issues that we're very passionate about is the sexual violence that prevails. Even with the children on the streets, the sexual violence is highest. You will not find the girls on the streets. If you have realized when you're driving, apart from the Karamajong girls, but if you're looking for the Baganda girls, the Basoga girls, the Wagisu girls, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that they are in different places. They're in the brothels, they're in the restaurants, they're in the different places being exploited. And what we cry out for is that if this girl has been sexually violated and they go to court, will they get immediate justice, or is it going to go through a whole long process of waiting for their justice?
One of the issues that came out in regards to application of law and order is, especially for sexual violence, the time it takes for one to actually report a case to police, and then that case being upgraded to, say, judicial, unless you have kintu kidogo, parents have suffered and decided, you know what, let's not even bother, because the system alone does not make room for consideration of these matters being serious matters that do affect society. So then we go to the next question: how does the law have any provision when it comes to children living on the street?
Yes and no. Yes, it does. The law has provisions, and in the Children's Act, as amended 2016, like I said, the issues of the children on the streets are like any other child. It's just that these are more disadvantaged and have ended up in a street situation, and no one has been able to arrest. The gatekeeping system was weak at that point, and they ended up on the streets. That's why I'm saying no. But the law does clearly stipulate that it is the government's role to ensure that every child is in a safe environment, and the streets have never been a safe environment. That's what we're calling out for. The streets, children are exposed to sexual violence, they're exposed to chifefesi, gang, mentoring, and all these different adventures that make the child not safe enough. But the law is present, and the funding does not match.
Okay. All right. Well, Faith, you did talk about family, safe spaces and education. Under your organization, how are you actually creating the safe environments, or how are you enhancing these spaces to be safe enough for children to stay and be grounded?
We work with schools to make sure that they have positive disciplinary measures. Rather than caning, they can have other positive disciplinary measures in order to help the children learn. And that then creates a safe environment for children in the street, in the school. Then we have, in churches, we teach positive parenting, where if a parent grew up without positive parenting, they can learn how to positively bring up their child without violence. And as we said, in these street situations, we're trying to take the children off the street and help them to return home, or out of institution care to return home, because as Damon said, it's the best place for the child. A home is the best place for the child. So we're trying to do that with different organizations that we work together. Now, tomorrow is the day that we're commemorating the Day of the Children in Street Situations, and it will be at
Pan-African Square.
Pan-African Square. We'll start at 9, and all children are welcome off the street to come and be with us, but also the organizations that are working with children in street situations will be there. We have a member of parliament who is coming.
The chairperson of the Gender Committee, who handles all the issues of children at parliamentary level, will be present to listen to the children and take their voices back to Parliament. And as her role is to chair for the children, we hope she's going to do her role also as being the voice for the children on the floor of Parliament.
All right. In closing remarks from you, Damon, we want to find out, there's a parent watching this morning, and they have fostered a rebellious child in one way or another, and we have talked about charity beginning at home. What is that one thing you would want to say to that parent? How can they handle this rebellious child, that they don't end up on the streets like the rest?
Don't give up. Don't give up on your child. Don't give up on your child. You are the hope that child has. At that point, the child is rebellious. At that point, the child seems not to understand you, doesn't want to listen to you. But at another point, that child will thank you for standing with them and not giving up on them. Don't give up on the child. The child is just a child, and children are rebellious. Children want to take their own decisions. Children want to do their own thing. Don't give up. Look at that child. Take your time with that child. You can seek help from different people. There are different professionals, different organizations that can give you the support and help, including the Child and Family Welfare Officer, including the probation officer. As per the government, all those people are there to help you. But don't give up on the child. You are the child's hope for tomorrow.
All right, loud and clear, do not give up on your child. If we had given up, or if our parents had given up on us, we all wouldn't be seated here. And so it's a matter of you as a parent going all the way in the 9-yard in helping your child adjust and conform to every form of life situations and challenges that could be thrown at them. You are the light for them at the end of the tunnel. And so we will celebrate the International Day for Street Children tomorrow at the Pan-African Square. Please do join Damon Wamara and also Faith Kembabazi as they get to cheer on and speak, be the voice for the children on the street. Someday here in Kampala, more so in Uganda, we should be able to have street-free free from children
environment,
street-free environment. All right, thank you so much.
I hope you're joining us tomorrow too.
I definitely will be behind you.
We'll be glad to have you.
All right, we do have morning at NTV continuing. Of course, we're going to be having our Kickstarter. Do stay with us.